Hi, yes, remember when I said I was gonna make a video about how I make Super Mario 64 Soundfont videos? Well, I kinda lied to you. What I'm really doing is explaining how to use a bunch of different unrelated and free software to make a bunch of weird, wacky, funny haha stuff for you to upload on YouTube. And I'm doing this because the moment that the algorithm stops promoting those videos, that video that I upload is going to be completely and totally useless. So I want to build at least a little bit of skills in my audience that don't get completely abandoned after the zeitgeist dies. So here we go. Alright, so here's the song that I've decided to do a thing for. It's a hymn by Tamako. Many of you probably don't know what that is. I'll explain why later on. Blah. Let's move on to the first part of this. Usually I start with the making of the album cover, so I got the album cover for the album that this song is based on right here, and since we're doing a Mario 64 version, I've got a little peach here, which I will edit to make it look nice and pretty. Go to this layer. This website is Pixlr, by the way. It's basically like free Photoshop. You can download 3 images a day for free, unless you want to pay for it, but I wouldn't worry about that. You're only gonna need like 1 if you like act smartly. Anyway, I'm gonna crop this so it's nice and square, and for this I'm gonna go to colorize, and I am going to use the color picking tool to make it look nice and pretty. Maybe that's gonna be the darkest one, and this one's gonna be a lighter. Yeah, something like that. But since this is just for an example, I'm not gonna go too hard at it. Basically, all of this is to say, don't use any fan renders for your album covers, and like, it is really simple as that to like make it blend in with the background. A lot of people just kind of paste a picture of Mario's face on like, they'd probably put it like on her head or something, but it's easy enough to just like make something that fits well. So yeah, now that that's done, I will download this. Of course, I've already downloaded it. You see it right here. Now the important thing to understand with these is that MIDI and pitch bends, they don't like each other too much. Like this little bend right here, it's not going to translate well when you upload it into FL Studio or whatever free software you use. So what I typically have to do when I make this is I have to go here. Oh, by the way, this software is Tux Guitar. It's basically a free equivalent of Guitar Pro 5, 7 or whatever, and you can upload it as a GP5 file to this free tab downloading website called Songster. You can download the tabs, and this is what you'll save as the actual project file rather than an FL Studio file, because I'm doing this on a free trial. It'll make sense in a minute. Anyway, back to the pitch bends. As you can see here with this bend here, you won't be able to do that in FL Studio, so what I'll do is, you can see here, it is a full step bend. What that basically means is, imagine that this line here is the 14th fret. For a full pitch bend like that, you'll go 14, 15, 16. So and there you go. It basically captures the idea of it. When you make it a Mario 64 sound font, it's gonna like not really sound like a proper pitch bend, but luckily, unlike a proper guitar sound, the metal guitar sound that I use won't really fit the pitch bends anyway. So what you basically want to do is just capture the idea of it. It's not perfect, but it is way better than having it sound like way too dull, which it often can if you don't like go through the time to do it. You'll do that for basically every single pitch bend you see here. Another thing that I also often check is to see if the volumes are all the same. So make all the volumes the same, make the balance the same, because you're going to be downloading these from this website, and a lot of people will have different input on mixing it, so sometimes it'll come out looking or sounding different, and you want it to be consistent. You want every single a song on the album to be mixed in a way that you like. And that's mostly that phase of the process. I'm gonna go through and do it just to show you what it'll look like when it's over. Alright, as you can see, I've gone through and I've removed all of the pitch bends from the thing. I've mixed the thing to make it sound nice and purty. I've gone through and basically I just followed all the steps that I said before, and now I've got a full Tux guitar file here that I can use and upload into FL Studio. Now, how do I upload it into FL Studio, you may ask? Alright, what you basically do is you go to File, go to Export, and then you'll export MIDI. I'm not going to do it here because as you can see I've already done it. Got him demo.mid there. And now, once you've exported that as a MIDI file, you'll go into FL Studio, and then you'll have this. And when you start, it's going to sound a little something like this. Which is not exactly what you want if you're doing a Mario 64 sound font, so I'm going to show you how I mix and match it to make it sound good. First thing, turn this bar all the way down there. A problem that I ran into like right at the beginning is like if you have this little mixing funny bar right at the top, there's a risk of noise compression, which you definitely don't want because it makes it sound really cheap and really bad and really stupid and lame and low. Basically, just keep it nice and low, it'll sound nice. Anyway, let's move on to the guitar part. So as you can see here, I have these two little guitar parts there. What I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna replace them with the Soundfont. And before I continue on, I should probably also mention how you get the sound fonts for these. What I did was I looked up Mario 64 sound fonts, and eventually you'll find your way to this one right here, which is the one that I found, done by good old Pablo's Corner here. You're gonna go there. There's a mega file for you to download. You'll download the zip file, you'll extract it to a specific FL Studio folder, which is right over here. You're gonna go in here and you're gonna put that extracted Soundfont file into this thing. Now back to the actual mixing of the thing. As you can see, these are two guitar tracks. Now that I have the Soundfont here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna replace this in the Soundfont player. I'm gonna search for it, and there it is right there. It's gonna start out as a grand piano, but I don't want it to be that. Now, an important thing I should mention with the Mario 64 sound font in particular is there's I call them landmines. There's these little landmines that you'll have. What I basically mean is like you'll have specific sound font options here, and some of them are just not ideal. Like, okay, so in Guitar Pro or whatever guitar software you use, this would be a distortion guitar file. So you see the sound font, the first thing you might think to do is, oh, go to the distortion guitar. Here's why you don't do that, because it sounds like this. It's just not good, just very bad, just very stinky, stupid bad. So what I would typically do instead is I would go in here, and I would go to open up the Mario 64 sound font again, and go to overdrive guitar. I'm going to do it for this second one right here. Then you'll be able to hear what that sounds like. Now, it's not perfect, but it is a lot cleaner than the other one was. Now, moving on to the next part, this is also going to be the overdrive guitar version there. So I'm going to make that an overdrive guitar. This is the drums. So, again, another landmine here. Here's a landmine. Look at that, powerful percussion. It's perfect for metal. Here's what that sounds like. It's just a bit much, you know, it's just a little bit much. So what I'm going to do is go in here, make that general percussion, and you get to see and hear what that sounds like. Now, it's not perfect, as you could probably hear. While it is significantly better, there's landmines within landmines. As you can see, if we get in here, when you import the MIDI, it assigns them as piano notes, and they each have like a little thing associated with it. So now what you're gonna do is you're gonna find the thing. It's hard to explain verbally what was wrong with the one I just did. I'm gonna show you what was wrong with it. This thing, this like open hi-hat just sounds like garbage. It completely clogs up every other drum sound. It makes it sound way too big, way too wall of soundy in a way that you don't want. So what you want it to be is this nice little closed hi-hat. Again, it won't sound quite as the same as the official one, but then again, it's in MIDI trumpets and weird drum noises, so it's not going to sound like that anyway. So you're going to move that down here. And now... and already it sounds so much cleaner, so much better. Now, let's move to the bass part, which is pretty bog standard, all things considered. I'm gonna go da-da-da. This nice little, typically I use electric bass pick. This one is also a overdrive guitar. So now we can go and listen to this finalized version, or semi-finalized version, right here. One more time, just to be sure. Now, we're gonna... also helps to listen to other parts to make sure that the instruments sync up the way you want to. So here's the second part. And there you go, nice and crispy. Now the last important thing I want to mention with the 64 sound fonts in particular, and all their gaming sound fonts, is what you'll do with the solos. As you can probably see on the little header here, this is a solo. It goes wacky wacky funny style. So of course you don't want, like, if you're doing a metal song, you don't want the main riff to overpower the solo because you want to hear the solo. You want it to cut through the mist nice and crispy and make it sound nice and good. So what I'll typically do is I will find the track that the solo is on, which is this one right here, go that over there, and I'll use this nifty little velocity tool, which basically allows you to heighten the volume of certain parts on the fly, which is very, very important if you want certain elements of the song to be higher or lower at certain points, which is a lot easier than adjusting the actual volume filters, which makes them louder for the entire time and you can't fix it. So I'm going to go here, go back there, and I'm going to increase this to this so that it cuts nice and high above the solo, or above the main riff. I'm going to bring this over here. So we'll have this little part right here, and you'll hear in action what that'll typically sound like. It's also important to mention now that for the rhythm guitar parts of these, I'll typically double them up instead of them just being like the same throughout. So I'm going to copy. Easy way to do that, I mean, another way to do that is just have two tracks, but an easy way to do it is to just copy the entire thing and double it up on itself. So that will typically sound... Oh, and another thing, the reason why I mention this is because for the solo parts in particular, in order to like make it sound crispier, what I typically do is I have the second rhythm part silent in the middle of it. So or like, I won't be silent. What it will be is it will be only one track instead of double track like the other parts. And of course, another way to fix that is to just have those parts be lower. And there you have it. That is the long and the short of how I do these. Now for an album, I'll just go through and repeat that process about 8 to 11 more times in a row and then stitch them together. I like using this little tool here in order to get the song lengths accurately. Sometimes I like extend the pauses so that like they match the actual lengths of the actual songs, and I go on the internet to find them. It's just those little things that allow you to like have it be nice and crisp, which is exactly what you want. And just as a little bonus, and by bonus I mean extended phase of the video, I'm going to show you how I do the Sega Genesis sound fonts as well. Now, okay, so you have all the same things you expect. You have the guitars, you have the basses, you have the yada yada yada. I'm just going to go to this nice little sound font player, go to my folder, look up the Ultimate Mega Drive sound font, which you can also find on the internet, and you put it in here the same way as before. Open that up, and then open this up, and then you'll get a little something like this. And I'm just going to repeat that for every other thing. So boop, 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 boop. I'm going to have this one also be that. Nice and good. And here's the drum part. The drums are here. And they are this one right here. The drums in particular have a specific quality to them that I need to show to y'all, so I'll get to that when I get to that. Until then, here's the bass part, Mega Drive sound font, E bass 1, and the last guitar part right here, which is also going to be distortion guitar, and when all is said and done, it is going to sound a little something like this. Now, with the guitar parts, now in terms of the drums have some particular quirks to them, much like the Mario 64 sound font, so I'm going to show you what those quirks are. First things first, you have both of these little bass parts. You have this one, little kick drum part. It's a little bit loud for my taste, so what I'll typically do is I'll take all of the ones that would be on there, use this little thing tool, and I'll move it up to here. But that is not all, because this one on its own is a little too quiet. So what I'll do is I'll do the same thing as I did before with doubling the main track. Select this one little note, Control C, Control V, and I'll double them up on top of each other. Now the second thing I typically do is in regards to the snare, which is also sometimes a little bit too low in the mix when it comes to metal, because it's that. And there's two of them, but they're not really the best when combined or doubled. So what I'll do is instead of doubling it up on one, I'll layer it on top of the other one. So it'll be playing at exactly the same time. So just to give you an idea of what that's going to sound like. We're gonna turn this on. And the last, and certainly, maybe not most important, but very important part is the cymbals. In this particular sound font, probably the biggest limit is the cymbals because there's not quite a lot of them. So there's some parts that just kind of get lost and don't get used enough, so I'll help you find those out. Like this one, nothing, there's nothing there. But there is this. This one is here. You'll be able to click around and find out when it imports which ones get ignored by the drum thing. So like this one is invisible. So what I'll do the same thing as before, highlight all of them and move it down to this lovely little layer right here. And I'll search around a little more for any other ones. Like this one, nothing there. There's no sound coming from these ones. So I'll just move this one down here. And then nice and crispy. Now, I'm going to show you what all of those sound like playing together the way they're supposed to be. Which is to move over here. Now sitting here, I realized, sorry, I'm gonna keep going. I just realized what I was doing there with the funny Metal Gear. Anyway, besides the point. Sitting here, I realized that some of you, hopefully some of you are thinking, what is this song? Who is this band? Where did Mawin T. Swaggums, aka the Big Vopper, find this song? Well, I got a little funny secret to tell y'all. Tamako is my band. This is my solo project. I've just duped you. I've tricked you into listening to songs that I've written originally for myself. You fools! You absolute baboons! You have been bamboozled! You have been tricked! You have been befuddled! Now you have no choice but to go to my SoundCloud, linked in the description right now. Okay, bye. Okay, actually, before I go, I should probably show you guys how to actually make this into like a YouTube video. Okay, so I know there's probably like a dozen billion different like, you know, things and stuff about like, ooh, which video editing software do you use? I'm not gonna engage in that discourse. I just use HitFilm Express. It's nice. It works for me. Make sure your video drivers are updated to be nice and good and stuff. Anyway, let's just move on. Go to default. And now you'll have this thing. Okay, now I'm at this point. I have downloaded everything, so now I'm going to show you how I edit these together. Anyway, I'm going to import this album cover art here. I'm going to put that as the video tab. Make sure to click this so that it doesn't change from what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to match the height. So when I want the album cover to fit nicely in the YouTube box, what I'll do is I'll right click this thing, hit transform, fit to frame height, boom, boom, boom. Look at that, nice and crisp. Now, I'm gonna import the audio, which is this one right here. Boom, boom, boom. As you can hear right here. It's the Sega Genesis one. I exported it from FL Studio as an MP3. There's no particular exporting things you need to know. Just click the button and hope that it goes well. I'm gonna conform that to this width right here so it doesn't get cut off by the thing. And as you can see, there's this kind of blue sort of milky bar right here. That's the actual like length that it will export to. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna set that to contents, and now it is nice and pretty. Now the only other thing I feel I need to mention is what I'll typically do after I've already done all the exporting parts. Sometimes there are specific effects that are really hard to get in FL Studio or Tux Guitar, so I'll typically do them here. Like, for example, I want that intro part to have a little like telephone thing. That might not sound like it makes sense, but I'll explain in a minute. Basically, what it is it just makes it sound nice and crispy. I know I say that a lot, but that's just like the word that I use. So it's gonna affect the entire block. So what I'll do here is I'll slice it. So now these are two different audio tracks. I'll go to effects, I'll search up telephone. And that'll make it sound like this. So that'll be really nice for like a really hype, you know, tension building intro if you want. I wouldn't do it like this, but you know, just for example. Another thing that I'll do just for example is do a crossfade, which is very important. It's not a crossfade, it's just a fade. I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so as you can see, I just moved this. I need to do that because if you don't have it like playing on something at this full peak here, it's not going to sound right. It's going to cut off way too soon. So what I'll do this, constrain it to that, start like here-ish, search for fade, not Fudaki, fade. I'm gonna do fade, I'm gonna put this here, I'm gonna put this here, and then it'll sound a little something like this. So if you want it to fade out, you can do it like this. And you'll hear at the end that it doesn't get cut off near the end. Boom, shwa boom, ba bloom, ba bloom. Well, once you have all that there, you'll be able to export it. But if you decide specifically to use HitFilm Express, I do need to warn you guys of something. Now, if you go to options, there's this little thing somewhere. I can't remember where it is. It is edit. It is somewhere. It's definitely somewhere. It is definitely, yep, here it is. Okay, the cache. For the love of God, make sure you have keep unused files set to like 1 day and cache in background it for 8 seconds. Because if you don't, it'll like store it in the background and it will suck up gigabytes and gigabytes of data without you realizing it. I panicked one day because I didn't realize how much data had been backed up. I went from like 200 gigabytes of storage, I went from like 800 gigabytes of free storage to 200 over the span of just 1 month of making these. So make sure that it deletes the cache after a day. Important side tangent over. Anyway, what you're basically gonna do, you're just gonna go to file. Nope, you're not gonna do that. Sorry, I was wrong. You're gonna go export now, export content, and then boom, it's exporting. And if you wanna know all the stuff that you would do to a YouTube video to make a YouTube thumbnail, I guess I do have to show you that. Okay, for the thumbnail, here you go. Create new. Bloop, 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 bloop. YouTube thumbnail. Boom, bam, boom. Now what you're going to do, you're going to click on this. You're going to click on that. You're going to wait for it to load. You're going to open this up. You're going to go floop, bloop, 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 bloop. And now you're going to shrink that down to fit the margins of the height of the thing. Make sure it's nice and centered. Shrink that out a little more. Make it nice and centered. Like that. Bing, 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 boom. You're gonna go to the background. You're gonna make it look nice like that, and boom, there you go. YouTube thumbnail, done, done, done. What I was trying to say before that little tangent with the thumbnail before is basically, if you want to know all about uploading YouTube thumbnail, YouTube stuff, and exporting and stuff, and doing like editing and uploading the thing, there's plenty of already existing YouTube tutorials on that. I'm sure you guys can figure it out. You're smart like that. I trust you. You can do it. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna be making a I'm gonna be releasing a solo project sometime in the future, so stay tuned for that. And now 700 subscribers past the 10,000 mark. We have our 10,000 sub special done. This is Mawin T Swagums, aka the Big Bopper, signing out. I am very tired. I have just eaten quesadilla. I'm very burpy. You can tell. You'll be able to tell when re-listening to this again. I'm going to be hearing a lot when editing this again. Goodbye.